Mzansi says is ready to hit the ground running after being included in the Gauteng provincial government. The party has been charged with the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. The department will be run by Vuyiswa Ramokgopa, who was contesting the seat of the premier in the province in the May 29 election. She joins us now for more on that. MEC, good evening, and thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, and good evening to all your viewers.
Well, it seems the Ramokgopa surname is going to put some pressure on you to deliver. One has given us no load shedding in the 100 days. What are you going to give us?
Well, hopefully we will continue on that winning streak and ensure that we deal decisively with the issue of hunger in our communities, particularly in the province of Gauteng. We know that, 1 in 4 residents of Gauteng and residents of our country actually suffer from food insecurity. We also know that, 1 in 3 children below the age of 5 suffer from stunting, and that's why hunger has always been top of our agenda. So this is a really exciting opportunity for us to get stuck into the work of, dealing with food insecurity issues, boosting the agricultural economy through agro-processing and supporting small-scale farming, and really kind of bringing to life some of those ideas that we have long been championing in our manifesto as Rise Mzansi.
Yeah. What are some of the opportunities in transforming the rural nodes of Gauteng in a way that, of course, will address the economy, the economic activity of those areas, the job creation in those areas? You've already mentioned the better quality of life.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, as you've said, agriculture, Gauteng is not one of those areas that's thought of when we speak about agriculture, because, of course, it is such an urban area. But there are opportunities for urban farming. There are opportunities also for subsistence farming, which helps us to deal directly with the question of hunger at a household level. There are already a number of initiatives that I'm aware have been started, and I look forward to continuing and building on the work that had already been begun by the previous MEC, Vuyiswa, to address and support and capacitate small-scale farmers and provide linkages into the market so that we can actually have improved economic opportunities, job creation, etc. Agriculture is such a catalytic industry, and I think often it is thought of simply as, what comes out of the ground, but it's a massive value chain also in terms of the agro-processing sector. And Gauteng is well poised to actually be the catalyst and to be the center of that. Many people don't know 25% of eggs that are produced in South Africa are produced in Gauteng. 11% of pigs that are farmed are done so in Gauteng. And so it really is a massive industry, very catalytic. We have about over 8 million people, as we know, in South Africa who are unemployed. And so there are massive opportunities also for employment at those lower levels of the employment change. And I'm looking forward to working across the sector with the private sector, with non-profit organizations and community-based organizations to come up with some of those innovative initiatives and strengthen some of the existing programs that have already commenced.
So one of the issues that would emerge, particularly when you're speaking of Gauteng and rural development, is the scarcity of land. I think your predecessors would have had to battle with that particular question. Yes, you speak of pig farming, you'd speak of the farming of fresh produce. They would have had to explore, for example, hydroponics and other forms, rooftop gardens and so on and so forth, that would have been able to enable that kind of production to take place. How are you going to navigate that space?
Look, I mean, I think land, of course, Gauteng is the smallest province geographically in comparison to all other provinces in the country. So that will always be a limitation. But as I'm saying, I think what we've also seen is that the industry is beyond just what comes out of the ground. In fact, a lot of what is farmed in other parts of the country is traded in Gauteng. So it's very important to look at the value chain in its entirety, to look at agro-processing, to look at the retail part of it, the fresh produce markets and the localization of agricultural produce. There are also a number of areas, as you know, where although we may be land scarce in comparison to some of our other provinces in the country, but there are still a number of areas where there is actually farming happening, where there are still large tracts of land. We ourselves, as Rise Mzansi, have initiated a number of community garden projects in the likes of Winterveld, in the likes of even some of our township areas, like Tembisa and others. So there are those pockets where one can initiate such programs. And not everything, as I say, has to be about huge business and massive sort of commercial scale agriculture. I think what we need to be focusing on is saying, how do we bring food closer to people? And how do we ensure that at the end of it all, we can close the hunger gap, and we can ensure that no South African goes to bed on an empty stomach. And in doing that, we empower also South Africans to grow their own food and to build their own localized food economies.
So I'm sure you're well aware that one of the controversies that you're going to have to deal with is that circular that would have ended the EPWP work for those who are, what are they called, greening officers. The green officers that fall within your department. How do you see that particular program, the EPWP program, being of benefit as far as your department is concerned?
Well, you'll be aware, Thabo, that there has actually been a separation between the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development and the Department of Environment. So it is actually not necessarily a given that that program would fall under my department, because it was sitting on the environment side rather than on the agriculture side. However, in saying that, one will need to do a proper review of all existing programs and assess whether there have been benefits and whether we have actually been able to have bang for buck. And at the end of it all, it's about providing accountability and ensuring that taxpayers' money is being used effectively to deliver outcomes and to deliver the promised outcomes that these programs are delivering. You know, ours is not to come into government and start to trash everything that our predecessors have done. There are pockets of success, but where they are not, we will not hesitate to take the necessary measures to ensure that we minimize wastage and we use government resources efficiently.
So there are some who didn't go into the government of provincial unity, and they are looking at Rise Mzansi and saying, well, you've just been made voting fodder for the ANC and you've been given a portfolio that is not significant. How do you respond to them?
Well, I think, we've gone into the government of national unity as well as the government of provincial unity in good faith, Thabo. For us, it was never about trying to grab power or trying to grab positions. And so our participation in the government of provincial unity was never contingent also on whether we receive a position or not. And I think that's something that we need to really reflect on, about whether parties who now find themselves not at the table, do they truly have the best interests of South Africans at heart? And I think part of being a multi-party government is being able to work across party lines with parties that you may not necessarily agree with, that you may not sometimes even hold similar views to, but using the opportunity and the platform and the mandate that has been given to you by citizens to actually deliver for them. And that's really our focus. We are not here to prop up anyone. Even at, I can imagine even at a national level, those who are part of the government of national unity are not there to prop up the ANC. They are there to deliver for the citizens of South Africa. And I think we are arriving with a similar attitude, and we will do the best that we can with the bit that we've been given, and hopefully it will also allow us to build a track record of governance that South Africans will be able to performance, to gauge our performance on as we build our party towards 2026 and 2029.
So you've got community safety residing in the Premier's office, and I gather there would need to be some collaboration between yourselves, because farming has also, unfortunately, become a hazardous profession. Not only unstable climate change that you're dealing with, invasion, livestock theft, and violent attacks is something that you would need to deal with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And indeed, collaboration across the different departments, both at a provincial level, but as well with local government, the different spheres of government, local and national government. The nature of many of the programs that we would want to be able to deliver and execute requires high levels of cooperation at all different spheres of government and with different departments. I mean, for example, even simple things like investing in training within the agricultural sector requires cross-departmental cooperation with the likes of Department of Higher Education and possibly even basic education. So this is something that we're very alive to and open to, and we've really embraced this with a sense that it has to be a multi-stakeholder, multi-departmental approach if we are serious about wanting to execute some of the initiatives that we are invested in seeing implemented.
MEC Vuyiswa Ramokgopa, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on this evening. Agriculture and Rural Development MEC, they're representing Rise Mzansi.